If you want some FIFA 23 coins, please check out MMOXP.com. Their link is down in the description. They're fast, cheap and reliable, and if you use code Rema, you can get yourself a 5% discount.
So what's up guys, my name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. In today's video guys, I've got some 4-4-2 custom tactics and player instructions that I hope you're all gonna like. Just before we get into today's video though, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, as it does really help with the YouTube algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, let's get right into today's video. Okay guys, so starting off with the custom tactics, the 4-4-2 is a formation that I use when nothing else is working, if that makes sense. It's a formation which is the very basic, the very bare minimum, so if you are really struggling it can help to go back to the basics, which is why I can sometimes use this formation. But starting off with the defensive style, I like to use balance. The reason for this is it gives you the greatest control when you are defending. A lot of people like to use pressure tactics and you're more than welcome to go and use them even with this formation. I just don't really like them, which is why I don't use them. I like having greater control when I play on balance, because obviously you can pressure when you want to press and then you can drop back a little bit when you want to be a bit more conservative, so it does give you greater control. For defensive width guys, I have this on 42. The reason for this is people like to attack in a very narrow way in this game, so having a lower width helps you cover the central areas of the pitch. But the reason I have it on 42 is because let's say somebody does want to go down the wing, I also have enough coverage to reach out to those wide positions to stop the attacks down the wing. So we primarily defend it in a narrow way, but when we do need to cover the wing we are able to do just that. Now moving on to the defensive depth guys, I have this on 55. Now depth is something I constantly change and experiment with, but with the 4-4-2 I'm enjoying using 55. The reason for this is the 4-4-2 shape when it comes to defending is very effective, because you know defensive AI is very good in FIFA 23, so it's very easy to defend in a 4-4-2. So I like to up my depth to about 55. This is to really apply pressure on my opponent when I need to, but at the same time it's not so high up that all those over the top through balls are constantly working against me. Now if you're a bit uncomfortable with this depth you can lower it. If you want it to be a bit higher you can up it, but I've noticed 55's been working very well in this formation. Now moving on to build-up play guys, I like to use balance. The reason for this is it's the most well-rounded when it comes to building up the play. It all depends on the type of gameplay you've got. If you've got very slow, sluggish gameplay, using something like fast build-up won't really work for you, because all your players will be making all these runs and movements, but you literally will not be quick enough to be able to, you know, pass the ball to them and make use of it. If you're on like really quick, consistent gameplay, you could use fast build-up. But I think balance for most conditions of this game, because it is very inconsistent, balance is the best to use, which is why I do just that. Now moving on to chance creation guys, this is very important for the new gen version of the game. You must use direct passing, because it is the only chance creation style which will allow you to actually break down your opponent's defense. Because if you look at the diagram in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you can see the white dots, which are your attackers, are constantly moving around to penetrate the defensive line. If you look at something like balance, that doesn't happen. You can see they're very static and they don't really cause much bother for the defenders. Now if you're on old gen you can use something like balance. This is mainly for the new gen, but if you're on new gen you must use direct passing. Now moving on to attacking width guys, I have this on 47 because the 4-4-2 is a wider formation, so we do want to make use of those wings when we are attacking. So we have this on about 47. The reason I went for 47 is because it's 5 higher than the defensive width, so you know we defend a bit more narrow and then we attack a bit wider. You know, that's the main reason I've chosen this. If you want to up this or lower it, that's completely up to you, but yeah. Now players in box, because this is a 4-4-2, I like to have this on 5. The reason I don't have this higher in this formation is because if I up this all the way to like 6 or 7, sometimes the centre mids will go rushing into the box, so if we lose the ball we've got nobody to pick up the ball to stop the opponent going on a counter attack. But if we have this on 5, we've always got like the centre mid staying back out of the box, so that doesn't happen, so we can retain the ball and start another attack. Now lastly, corners and free kicks, I have this both on 2. This is down to personal preference. The reason I have it on 2 is because I like to have some players into the box for crossing from set pieces, but I don't like to overcommit my whole team. So having it on 2 is a nice balance. If you want to up it or lower it, that's completely up to you. For the players you want to use, guys, you do have a lot of freedom in the 4-4-2. So starting off with the strikers, because it is a 2-striker formation, you can pretty much use whoever you want to. When you have a 1-striker formation, you kind of have to compensate for the fact that there is only 1 striker, but because we've got a 2-striker formation here, we're able to use a bit more of a variety of players. So what I like to do is I have one more technical player, so I've got Angel Di Maria, he's got the skill moves and that kind of thing, and then I have Robbie Keane, who is a bit more of a finisher, just to have that balance in the attack. If you want to go for like 2 lengthy players, you can do that. If you want to go for 2 explosive players, that's absolutely fine, but yeah, in the striker positions, I just like to go for a bit of a balance. Now for the left mid and right mid, the most important thing is that you've got players that are technical. You've got players that are agile, that can shoot, that can pass, that can dribble, you know, those types of players. But an added bonus you can have in these positions is a high work rate. And the reason this works is I'm going to show you in the player instructions, but just keep that in mind. If you can get a high player like Phil Foden, who is still very good on the ball, then that is perfect. But if you can't, that doesn't matter, because like Chiesa is a high medium, for example. It's just something that will really solidify your team. Now, moving on to the centre mids, I like to have one more defensive player, so Patrick Vieira. The ideal work rate for this player is a medium-high work rate, but this version of Vieira, for example, is a medium-medium. Because he's got very good defensive stats, it doesn't really matter. So aim for like a medium-high player with very good defensive stats, but if you can't get that, you know, if you can't get that work rate, just make sure they're very good defensively and you should be fine. Now, the other centre mid, I suggest a more box-to-box player, so I'm using Park Ji-sung. He's got very well-rounded stats. He's got like above 80 in nearly everything. And the most important thing about this player is that high work rate, because again, you're going to see in the player instructions, it's very important to make the team function correctly. If you're struggling for coins and you need this type of player, you could buy just base gold Renato Sanchez. He will do the job just fine. You can trust me on that one. Now, moving on to the fullbacks, guys, you can pretty much use whoever you want. I like going for like a more technical player and then a more defensive player, so Hernandez and Walker. If you want to go for 2 defensive players or 2 attacking players, that's completely fine. You can pretty much use whichever fullbacks you're comfortable with using. Now for your defenders and keeper, you just want them to be as meta as possible. I'm just using Varane, Van Dijk and Chesney because they're pretty good for chemistry. There's not really much to it, but yeah, just get these as good as you can possibly get them and you should be fine. Now for player instructions, guys, on the 2 strikers, I suggest having one on stay central and mixed attack and the other one on stay central and getting behind. The reason for this is if you have them both on stay central getting behind, they will both start running the moment you get the ball, you know, so you can disconnect your attack and your midfield, if that makes sense, because these 2 players are running off on their own. So by having one of them on mixed attack, you can almost get like another layer to your attack, so it could play like a 4-4-1-1 at times, so it does work really well. That's why I have Di Maria on mixed attack, because let's say I pass the ball from Vieira to Di Maria will drop back a little bit deeper and then Robbie Keane will run off, so then we could maybe play him in. It just gives you a bit more variety. I've noticed the team can be a bit disconnected when you have both players on getting behind. If you want to put them on both getting behind or both mixed attack, that's fine, but I do suggest stay central on both of them because you don't need these players drifting off to the wings, as we've got, you know, the right mid, right back, left mid and left back to do that, so we don't really need them in those wide positions. Now moving on to the right mid and left mid, I have them on comeback on defense and get into the box for cross. The reason for this is it's not to park the bus, but when you have comeback on defense on, it really ensures that they keep the defensive shape that you need in this formation, because otherwise if you don't have them on comeback on defense, you'll notice they will kind of like be a bit lazy when it comes to defending. So by having them on comeback on defense, you're making sure they do defend in that 4-4-2 shape that you need, which is why I said that high work rate is very good if you can get it, because when we are attacking, Phil Foden will fly forward, and then when we lose the ball, he will be very quick to drop back into his position. Getting to the box for cross on both of these players just means that when we are attacking around the penalty area, they will transition into the penalty box. It doesn't mean we have to pass them the ball or cross them the ball, it just means they are making those runs. So yeah. Now for the box-to-box centre mid guys, I leave him on completely balanced and then cover centre because we want him to do a bit of attacking, a bit of defending, and the only real important thing is that we have him to cover the central areas because again, we don't need him to cover the wing as we've already got lots of players to do that. We need him to cover that central area, which is why we have him on that. Now for your other centre mid, the more defensive one, we have stay back while attacking, stay on the edge of the box for cross and cover centre. The reason for this is it's a more defensive player, so we don't need him to attack, we need him to stay back and make life difficult for our opponent. We have stay on the edge of the box for cross because this is similar to what I said in the custom tactics. When we do go forward, we don't really want this player running into the box, do we? Because he's a more defensive player. We need him to stay back and we need to make sure that we don't get counter attack. So he allows that. Cover center just means he will cover those central areas opposed to the wing, which is very important. Now lastly guys, for the fullbacks, I suggest stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason for this is we don't need them to attack as much because we've already got good width in this formation as it is a wider formation. So we do have them on stay back while attacking and overlap. The reason we have them on overlap, however, is because let's say we do trigger them to run forward, we want them to overlap our wingers instead of underlap to get even more width. But yeah, it's completely up to you what you do with the fullbacks, but I leave them on stay back while default. And yeah, that is it for the custom tactics and player instructions guys. If you have enjoyed this video, I'd very much appreciate it if you could drop it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and I will catch you all later. Peace.